Afternoon, everyone. I'm Adrienne Gilliard here with Sandra Bazan, and we're from the ELC's inclusion team bringing you Behavior Bites Tidbits. The last time that we met, Sandy and I discussed the red flags for ADHD or attention deficit disorder. Today, we're going to talk about the strategies for ADHD in the early childhood classroom. Now, as we know, ADHD is a neurological condition that impairs a child's ability to focus on everyday tasks like homework, responsibilities around the house, domestic chores, that kind of thing. And so a lot of experts agree that the tendency to develop ADHD is present from birth. Yet, ADHD behaviors are often not noticed or identified until children get to to elementary school. So we are going to take some time and talk about the strategies for ADHD. All right.
And also just a little tidbit there for it could also just be without the H, right? So the ADD part, that attention deficit disorder, without that hyperactivity element to it, which is we're going to talk about as well, right? Because there is a certain behavior that is seen and demonstrated, which is that high distractibility, that inability to kind of retain information, and it all goes back to the underlying, element of they're processing information differently. Their bodies are processing information differently. So they're neuro, divergent. If they've had the diagnosis, then that's what that is, right? So their brains are wired differently, and it kind of, that's just a brief overview of what we went from before. But the strategies,
Absolutely.
this is what we're going to talk about now, and there's a lot of strategies, and not all of them will work for each one of our kids, right? So let's just put that out there first and foremost. But go ahead, Adrienne, you take it.
So for the first strategies, it's about the relationships and the connections that we foster with our children. And what we want to do is create those positive opportunities, for children, for them to succeed at whatever it is we're asking them to do. Sandy, when we're creating those positive opportunities, what do they look like sometimes?
So that means starting with that behavioral momentum that we talked about, starting with something that they can do and do well. Right. So maybe we have a child who really struggles with maintaining focus so long on the paper that when you're asking them to cut out an item, they start cutting a little bit and then they get distracted and they cut off the paper, they cut off the actual shape that you wanted, so maybe giving them the opportunity to just do snippets first, just small, and practicing and making such a show of doing so well, right? You're doing so well. Then you graduate to straight lines. Maybe they cut out a square because that's easier than cutting out a circle where you have to actually manipulate the other side of the paper, right? So creating those little opportunities where you are celebrating, where they are, and building from that.
Exactly. And it goes right into setting those achievable goals. You're doing the same exact things when you like you're saying, set them up for that success. And the other thing that we can do is recognize those positive behaviors out loud. And Sandy, you always talk about throwing a party.
Throwing the biggest party, because even as adults, we want to be recognized for not only doing a phenomenal job, but the effort, right? So even if you catch your students or your children, thinking about doing something you've asked them to do, or even staying on task a minimal 1 second longer than you thought they would have, celebrate that. Tell them explicitly, I love the way that you hung in there. I love the way that you stayed for that extra 30 seconds. High five. Like, did everybody see what Adrienne just did? And how beautiful is it to build that community, that inclusive, caring community that we talk so much about as a support.
And then they are more willing, because you were so pleased and you threw that party, they're more willing to do whatever that is again.
Oh my
Because
gosh,
who
it's
doesn't like to
positive
be
reinforcement,
celebrated?
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, and then the next thing we want to talk about creating for those strategies for ADHD is creating a routine and a schedule. And I know one of the things that we talk about all the time is having that visual schedule, making sure that our classrooms are structured in a way that children know what is coming next, right?
Okay, exactly. But now we're going to take it and let's put it on the on our ADHD or ADD hats, right? And so what we're talking about here, when we have these kids that have this, you know, high distractibility, an inability to remain on task for long periods, is that executive functioning skill, that ability to order my steps, that ability to follow through from initiation through to completion. It's impacted, right? And so how do we support a child who can't help that? We can provide visuals for the even like activities. And so yeah, they should have a visual schedule for their day,
Mhm.
but those visual schedules should be brought into their everyday, even daily tasks, right? So if every day during whatever center it is, they need to do this, then this, then this, then have a visual. Have a
Right.
visual up there as a wait, what step am I on? Because the way that my brain is working, I
Mhm.
may have done step one and I was on my way to doing step two, but I got distracted. Somebody said something. I smelt something. Somebody else is doing something so much fun. I'm taking in all of this, right? And now I'm lost. So,
Mhm.
as an educator, as a teacher, I can now point to Adrian and say, hey, Adrian, I see that you did number one. Where are we? Refer back to number two. That's right, baby. You need to cut now, or you need to paste, or we're coloring, right? And I don't have to say it out loud. I can just gesture to it with a visual and a gesture, taking the need, that dependency on me to verbally cue all the time. Now we're giving them a little bit more independence. So definitely
Independence, right?
the structure is super important because as we know, we create habits. And once you create a habit, it's like brushing your teeth. You don't think about it, you just kind of do it,
Mhm.
right? So we are trying to create these healthy habits within the classroom and also support those daily routines that they can kind of get sidetracked with.
Absolutely. And it's like all of those things are intertwined. That routine and the schedule, you gave effective instruction. And I feel like it is such a rewarding thing for children when you don't have to constantly remind them. Because it creates embarrassment too. Like, why does the teacher always have to tell me what to do step by step? But they have
Absolutely.
everything right there. You,
And then it also creates that I don't hear you anymore. We kind of like we do it to ourselves
right,
as teachers. If
right,
I constantly call your name, Adrian, and I've called you 15 times, and I really need you on the 16th, you've already tuned me out on number two or three, right? Like you hear your name so often that it doesn't catch your attention anymore. It's almost like background noise,
right.
right? So when you
Absolutely.
give effective instruction, it means you're giving explicit directions and behavioral cues as well. This is
Right.
what is expected. This is what I need you to do, right? Nice, short, concise, and then for these kids that struggle, have them repeat it back to you. It doesn't take, I just want to, I'm just checking in to make sure you were with me, Adrian. First, we
Exactly.
are
And
going to,
not only that, it means something different when they hear their own words repeating back those same set of instructions. They process it a little bit differently, a little bit more.
because we're using multimodal like forms of communication, right? So we're not only listening, but now we're adding their verbal. I mean, the more we can get their whole bodies, the more we can give whole body instruction, the more they're going to understand the tasks as well, right? So giving
Exactly.
effective instruction and then breaking down the tasks,
Breaking down that task.
understanding that these children need to have that chunking. So what does that mean? If we have three parts that need to be done, maybe after each part, they stand up, they touch their
Mhm.
toes, they go and they help you pass something out. I'm giving their body an opportunity to do what it naturally needs to do. Again, remember, these children are wired differently. If they have if they have a diagnosis, we know that they are wired differently.
Mhm.
The way that their body has to, exert energy, interpret stimuli. It's all different, right? And so how do we support this in the classroom? Adrian, flexible seating is another way
Mhm.
of doing it. Like, do I really
Have
care?
them sit on an exercise ball
Or
instead of
stand,
a
or
regular chair,
stand,
or
or
stand.
stand and sway, because sometimes they need that. I mean, like right now, I don't know if you see me, but I'm on my squishy ball. I am. You know what I mean? I am an adult with ADHD. And I have learned to incorporate these, but we need to give these skills to our littles, right?
Exactly.
So
And
breaking down
one
those tasks.
breaking down those tasks. And like you said before, sometimes you have children, if you tell them, okay, you need to color this, you need to color this piece of whatever this ditto is, even though we don't like dittos, you
Mm.
need to color this, then cut it out and then glue it to this construction paper. If they have the visual that shows a set of crayons, pair of scissors, and then the glue that is already broken down for them, that they know what they have to do first, next, and last. So breaking down those tasks in different ways, even like you said, with, flexible seating, all of these different things, making sure that they get brain breaks is important. And
Absolutely.
finally, it is your responsiveness that is one of the key strategies for children who have ADHD in our early childhood classrooms. And we want to set clear expectations. So, Sandy, what do we mean by those clear expectations?
Just that. Like, how do I explain what I want to see as far as behavior? I want to see, saying sit right doesn't
What does that
express,
mean?
what does that mean? I want to see both feet on the ground. Ah, I understand now. Oh, that's what she
Mhm.
means by I want to see both feet on the ground, right? Setting clear expectations. I want, I don't know, making sure that they know what I'm looking for specifically, in detail, not abstract words like be good,
Mhm.
finish your work, are you done? No, these are very abstract, right? So finish your work. Instead of that, did you color?
Mhm.
That's very clear. It's very, did you color? Okay, great. What's next? Now I'm going to point to and then it goes into teaching focusing techniques, right? So the setting the clear expectations is just that. That's my responsibility, and making sure that I have visual supports around the classroom, and that I've pre-taught what these expectations look like and we've practiced, right? So setting them up for success.
Mhm.
um Teaching focusing techniques. Oh, that's a good one. Understanding, like for me, understanding that I have to be in motion constantly, whether my leg is going, or I'm tapping on a pen, or I'm sitting on my little ball for today. These are all focusing techniques have learned throughout my years and I'm implementing now in my adult life. But teaching them these skills, this is not, you're not born knowing this, right?
Mhm. These are
So
things that they're going to put in their toolbox and use as adults.
oh my gosh, and you're setting yourself as the educator and the rest of your classroom up for harmony and success, right? And so by teaching kids that, you know what, Tommy needs to stand when he works, but Adrian, you're okay to sit down, and
Mhm.
teaching that you do what you need to do, and that's great, but this is what this child needs, and that's okay too. I mean, we don't need the struggle, right? So teaching all the children how to focus, those deep breaths. What can you do? Take a break. Sometimes as an adult, I can't sit through what I need to sit through. So I take a break,
Mhm.
and then give my attention. If I love what I see, immediate reinforcement, and make it significant and memorable, whatever that looks like for that specific child.
Exactly. This is when we tune in and give that attention. This is also, the children feel so much better when they know that you are really paying attention to what they're saying and that you care about what is important to them.
It's all about those relationships at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it all circles back to those relationships. But yeah, those are some of the strategies. Sometimes they struggle with memory. Executive part of that is like that working memory. a lot of repetition, again, a lot of hands-on tools, a lot of 3D manipulation, whole body experiences, as much sensory experiences as possible. And these are the kids, if they have that H, they're gonna do better with whole body movement. So the more you can ebb and flow your routine with sedentary to active and moving and whole body movements, the easier it's gonna be
Absolutely.
for them and you.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Sandy. And if you are still experiencing challenging behaviors with any of the children in your classroom, you can always reach out to Debbie Kay on our warm line. Her number is 954-295-0672. We'd like to encourage you to connect with us on our Behavior Bites Zoom that is held every Friday from 1 until 2. Speak to your director about registering for this. And if you found this video and other videos of ours helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you back here next week.
Take care.